again, and I really hope that I continue this, which I really enjoyed talking to you and seeing my number of subscribers increase. But today I'd like to continue talking about critical thinking. But today we'll talk about highly sensitive people and critical thinking. Now, say why this is the case. Well, there are a number of, there's a number of people who are quite sensitive to, let's say, outside the world. I'm probably one of them. And given where you are, I think research shows that there might be about 20% of your surrounding that are those types of people. These are not introverts, extroverts, or autists. It's not really a mental disorder or anything of the sort. It's just people who are naturally more sensitive to surroundings that others are. Basically, more sensitive to the outside stimuli. I mean, you can ask yourself, am I easily overwhelmed by these external stimuli, smells, lights, coarse fabrics, anything that is sort of, not, it's not really anywhere on close to autistic spectrum, but it gets you there, and it probably gets you more than other people. And that's one thing, do things rattle you a little bit more, and you kind of get in a limbo and get um, stressed out, but it's a different sort of stressed out. You could, when you zone out and you really freeze. Do you like to withdraw somewhere when you get really tired? And again, it's not just being an introvert. It's really about suffering greatly from the surroundings and trying to relax and get some privacy and relief from the situation. And do you have you spend some time to arrange your life to avoid various upsetting, overwhelming situations? You will try to control things a little bit more than others, perhaps. And you probably do have a rich and complex inner life, and you basically have been described by others as sensitive, and you probably know if you are like this. And to be honest, some people say, well, how do I know? What about the others? But it shows, it is obvious. I mean, maybe obvious to you. I mean, it was obvious to me, the people who are more and people who are less. At least I know about myself. Others know about themselves. And you could sort of put a certain, gradation. You can call thick skin, thin skin gradation, or sensitive, less sensitive, and non-sensitive. I mean, everybody is sensitive to a degree. Now and then, eventually, when stress of situation becomes too much, you probably have a disorder. I mean, it basically means it's not nothing wrong with disorder. It's just you can't fit in the pattern of life. Now we do work. A lot of people who are HSP are quite successful, and there are some reasons for that. You can watch videos about this, but it's basically, people just spend. They're quite sensitive to their surroundings because of their inner sort of make. They are sensitive to themselves, especially to any threats that they can experience, and because they are sensitive to themselves, attuned to what can hurt them, they can both, but they can also be attuned to what others. Not necessarily my example here. I'm just saying as a typical sensitive people. They are typical sensitive people are sensitive to themselves and to others, and they also understand situations better. And that's why there's a bit of a link to say critical thinking in terms of maybe the faculties, basically developed in a cold and calculating mind of the autist with no emotional stimuli that don't get him or her. Calm, cool, calm, collected person. Sherlock Holmes. Somebody with less visible emotion. Now, yeah, but nothing necessarily, it doesn't necessarily follow, it doesn't have to be truth. Because while it is easier for somebody who has less attachment to those, not attachment, but less, gets less overwhelmed by those stimuli to be focused. Sensitive people can do the same if they are sufficiently well mentally rested. In fact, they could probably do a little bit more because they could actually understand the situation better. So in a way, the sense making, they take about sense making in business, people talk about. If you're sensitive to what happens externally, you could actually benefit quite a bit more because you will understand. Some people are quite sort of sensitive to emotional reactions of others, and you'll take them into considerations. Now, it could be that you are sensitive to the stimuli for yourself and you just don't have enough time, you really do not attune to reactions of others. But even then, if it's only about you, if you are sufficiently well, mentally rested, and that's the key thing here. It's really about, being perhaps spending more time on being mindful, being mentally, chill and meditating if you wish, praying if you wish. But it is just so much more important for you as a sensitive person to do it. Then I think your faculties can only be sharper. They could really start kind of getting it. Now there are some people, and not necessarily sensitive people don't necessarily do that as much as maybe others who jump in. The people who jump in, trial and error, this is not critical thinking as we discussed. They probably don't really pay much attention to what's the lay of the land, so to speak. But if you are a sensitive person, say you've come into the room, there's a good example of saying somebody come into the room. Do you hesitate when you get into the room, or you just jump in and take a seat? Now, if you are perhaps more adventurous, you won't, but then you are not actually critically assessing the situation. If you are a sensitive child getting into the classroom, you are a little bit hesitant, you are watching, and if you can make a decision at that point, you can say, well, where is the best place to sit? Is it the back or is it the front? Or is the teacher standing? Are the blinds on, blinds off? Would you be able to see things? Now, I don't, necessarily do that, or, but it's just an interesting observation that sensitive people have that certain advantage. And that it plays into logical thinking. So the critical thing here is be able to calm your emotion and or not calm, but work with it. And if you don't, then I think we are really, then we're probably at disadvantage. However, others are also disadvantaged because of the rush decisions and maybe the hubris, if I may use this word, over helms them rather than emotional overstimulation. So in both cases, it's what you should have done is just step back and take a pause. And we don't do that too often. So I think read on a highly sensitive person, and see if you are one. And if you are one, I think it's not really the end of the world. I mean, it is difficult to deal with this in a kind of constant struggle that the daily life is today. But I think we are creatures that can adapt our personalities, and there's a great variety of various personalities. I don't know that, and make sensible decisions in life, irrespective of how sensitive, insensitive, emotional, less emotional we are. I think critical is to be able to understand who you are, what you are, and make sense making. And it's a really good word sense making. Sense making of outside situation, which is important for critical decisions, but also sense making of you inside. And that sense making, which is part of your understanding of psychological mental balance or homeostasis, is something, although I won't emphasize in discussions, but I think I think it is just as important, because we cannot make any critical decisions and think logically, think critically, if we're also not internally very well balanced. The balance is something I will continue talking about. So it's just a very short video today on this, but I think we'll talk about more types of personalities and how this affect the critical thinking skills. Thank you very much. All the best. See you soon.